One of my favorite things about cooking is how accessible it is. A few pieces of metal and a fire and you can make yourself something delicious. But if that's the case, then why do you ask, do I have a number of very expensive chef knives? Well, today I'm putting that to the test by comparing my $650 handmade Japanese chef's knife to this $11 knife that I just bought on Amazon. I'm gonna cut some common vegetables and put these things through their paces. And I think you'll be surprised by the results. In fact, cutting one of these vegetables, I actually preferred the cheaper knife. And I'll be giving away the knife that I'm using in this video. More details in just a few minutes. So let's take a closer look at these two blades. This is my Masimoto KS, and for any of you knife nerds out there, it is a legendary pattern that's based off of the old French sabatier profiles, which I've always been a huge fan of. It's a high carbon white steel with a Japanese style wah handle, and the blade measures 9.4 inches. Let me just say, I genuinely love this knife. And here is a brand new Stahl chef's knife by Winco. It says it has a razor sharp blade, an ergonomically designed handle, a protective finger guard, easy maintenance, and of course, never before seen quality for this price. It has an 8-inch blade. We'll talk about balance and comfort in just a minute, but first, let's cut some mushrooms. The Japanese knife absolutely demolished these things. The blade is light and the knife moves fast. I am very happy with this cut. The Winco, as you can see, is also breezing through this. The blade is a little bit wider, but the edge is good. And these mushrooms, they did not stand a chance. But I know what you're thinking. You could use a spoon to cut through mushrooms and still look like a pro doing it. So let's move on to something a little bit more challenging, which is dicing carrots. The Japanese knife slices through these efficiently and easy. A carrot is among the harder and more brittle vegetables you run into in the kitchen, and some knives really struggle with them, but not this Japanese knife. In fact, I'm giving a slight handicap here because I have not sharpened this knife in at least a month, but it still slides right through, no problem. The Winco is honestly struggling a little bit with these carrots, maybe because of the blade thickness. It just doesn't quite want to cut straight down through the hard carrot flesh, but don't get me wrong, it is still getting the job done. Next up is fennel, and I'm sad to say my memory card ran out of space while I was filming the Winco dice, but you can see it cleaning the fennel, and it is almost on par with the expensive Japanese knife. It's got a nice grip, and it did a great job cutting the fennel. The Japanese knife destroyed the fennel, no problem. There's something about this knife that's hard to describe. It just eats these vegetables. On to what I've always found to be the biggest test of a kitchen knife's edge, and that is slicing chili rounds. Because of the thick skin and the shape, this is a great test of a knife's edge. And here is where I was surprised, because while my Masimoto hammered these chilies, don't get me wrong, I actually preferred the Winco. This is not a video about knife technique, but while cutting a single chili is one thing, it's all fun and games until someone throws a 20-pound case of them on your station and tells you to cut them in the next 10 minutes. And when you've been confronted by that particular situation, you adapt pretty quickly to what works best. And I can tell you that the most efficient way for me to cut large volumes of vegetables like this with a roll cut is to grip the knife at the back of the handle, far away from its balance point, and do a long roll cut, which helps enormously with arm fatigue. This cheap Winco knife was masterful at that. It cut these chilies thin and easy, and while the blade is a little wider than I like, I would argue that when it comes to cutting large volumes of vegetables with a roll cut, the Winco surprisingly comes out on top. Next up are chives, which is a notorious knife test, and this is a scenario where the quality of the Japanese knife really shines. I don't even really need to push or slide. I'm almost just dropping the knife on the chives and they're just falling apart. The Winco did not struggle with the chives, but I did end up with some uncut sections, although honestly, that's probably just me not being fully comfortable with the shape of this blade. Now let's mince up some garlic. The Japanese knife is a fast and agile blade, but its balance point is a little further away from the handle than many chef's knives, and that may be something that some people might be uncomfortable with. To get maximum control, you want to pinch right at the balance, and this one is up over the engraving. The Winco has a surprisingly perfect balance right at the top of the grip, and it not only did great on the chopping portion, but the mincing also was very effective and comfortable. Last test is peeling and dicing a pineapple. The narrower and thinner and lighter blade of the Japanese knife also shines here, but the cheap knife again got the job done with no issues at all. To me, the conclusion is clear, and it is you do not need to spend a lot of money to get a good kitchen knife. Admittedly, the Japanese knife for me is better in just about every way, but there are very few cutting tasks any of us will actually do at home where that really matters. So if you like nice knives like I do, I can't recommend some of these high quality, beautiful handmade knives enough. But if you're just looking to get the job done, I can strongly recommend the cheaper blade. So leave a comment if you want this knife. To enter, just include the word chili in your comment and you'll find more details in the description. But anyway, that is all for me on this one. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon.